Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to critical knowledge. We are jumping straight in today with something really urgent, high stakes, actually. The significant last-minute changes the Medical Counseling Committee, the MCC, just made. We're talking about the NEET PG 2025 All-India quota, the AIQ seat matrix. If you're an aspirant, or maybe you're working with one, look, this isn't just relevant information. It's absolutely mission-critical right now. Our goal here is to quickly distill the key facts for you, the operational details, and maybe more importantly, talk about what this means for the choices you need to make, like now, before that round one window slams shut.
Yeah, this is a perfect, almost textbook case of why you always need to check the final details. The seat matrix, this dictates where thousands of doctors will potentially spend the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's shifted pretty substantially. It forces everyone to sort of recalculate their strategy. We really need to go beyond just the headline and understand, the anatomy of this change.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. We know there's been a revision. But before we get into the weeds of how the seats actually moved around, what's the single most important number? The bottom line for the listener about the total AIQ seats for 2025, did the overall pool get bigger or smaller?
The headline finding, the thing that hits immediately, is that the total pool of AIQ seats actually got smaller. There was a net decrease in the number of available seats.
The decrease. Okay, that's never great news, especially in something as competitive as NEET PG. For people trying to picture the impact, let's get specific with the data the MCC released. Can you give us the actual before and after numbers?
Absolutely. So the initial AIQ seat count, the preliminary one, was 28,760 seats. After this revision, the final confirmed AIQ count is now 28,663 seats.
28,760 down to 28,663. So, yeah, we're looking at a net loss of 97 seats. Now, in the world of national medical counseling, where a few hundred ranks can separate thousands of aspirants, what does losing 97 seats actually mean strategically? Is this just a small ripple, or is it more like a wave?
Oh, it's definitely a wave. I'd say particularly for candidates kind of in that mid to high rank bracket. Think about those aiming for seats where the competition is already intense, maybe ranks between, say, 5,000 and 15,000. For the absolute top rankers, the top 500, maybe 97 seats, doesn't drastically change their top specialty choice. But for the vast majority, those 97 seats mean the cutoff rank for popular specialties probably just got a little bit higher, critically higher. Your margin for error when you're filling in your choices, it just shrank. It means that specialty you felt pretty good about maybe 3 weeks ago, well, it might now be slightly tougher to get unless you adjust your priority list.
Okay, that really sets the stakes. Now, this is where I find it gets really interesting. That net decrease, the 97 seats, it's the end result of something more complex, right? The sources say the matrix is dynamic. It wasn't just the MCC chopping 97 seats off. How did they actually land on that specific number? What were the moving parts?
Right, this is the core of it, analytically speaking. That 97-seat net decrease, it comes from a pretty significant withdrawal of seats. That was only partly offset by some new additions. We saw a total of 103 seats actually withdrawn from the allocation matrix.
Wow, 103 seats withdrawn. That number really jumps out. That sounds like some major institutional changes happening very late in the game. Did the MCC break down what kind of seats were pulled? Because, losing an MD seat feels different from losing a DNB seat, doesn't it?
They did, yeah. And this breakdown is, I think, a key piece of information for listeners. So of those 103 withdrawn seats, 49 were from the traditional MDMS categories. But the majority, actually 54 seats, were DNB seats, Diplomat of National Board.
54 DNB seats pulled out right at the last minute. Why such a heavy skew towards DNB programs in this withdrawal? Is there, a pattern here we should be aware of?
There often is a pattern, yes. See, while MDMS seats are usually in established medical colleges under pretty strict MCI and MC rules, DNB programs, they frequently operate within private hospitals or maybe non-teaching hospitals. And these programs can be much more susceptible to, last-minute regulatory hitches or administrative changes. Just think about why a seat gets withdrawn, right? It could be failure to meet faculty norms, maybe infrastructure wasn't up to scratch in a final inspection, or maybe the hospital just didn't get the necessary affiliation paperwork finalized in time. Because DNB seats often rely on hospital capacity that might be less standardized than, say, a government medical college. They tend to introduce this kind of volatility. So aspirants who are relying heavily on DND options really need to understand this inherent risk.
That makes a lot of sense. It really contextualizes the data. It tells us not only did the pool shrink, but the type of seat available became a bit less stable, especially in those D&B categories. Okay, so 1-3 withdrawn. But the net decrease was 97. How do we get back those few seats?
Right, that's the small bit of, let's say, positive news in the mix. To counteract the withdrawals, the MCC also confirmed the addition of 6 new seats into the matrix. Our sources suggest these 6 new seats mostly came from private hospitals that managed to get their final approvals sorted out just under the wire. So the math becomes clear. 103 seats confirmed as unavailable, 6 seats confirmed as available. The difference is that critical 97-seat net decrease. This whole dynamic adjustment, it's basically the MCC's final cleanup phase. They're using the confirmed, signed-off data from every single participating institution, essentially scrubbing the list clean right before the actual allocation starts.
I have to push back just a little in the process here, though.
Yeah.
While it's good, the NCC provides the final accurate data eventually. The fact that 103 seats, mostly DNB, are being pulled just days before round one, doesn't that suggest a failure in reporting much earlier in the cycle from some institutions? I mean, this isn't just a minor admin correction. This forces thousands of students into a rapid, stressful rethink of their whole strategy.
That's an absolutely crucial point you're raising. We have to see this revision not just as numbers changing, but as a signal of procedural risk, really. If you had a DNB program ranked highly on your list, especially in a specialty where seats are already scarce, you now have to kind of assume that the capacity of those programs might be less reliable than you first thought. It just underlines the need for vigilance and maybe building some backup plans into your preference list.
Okay, let's pivot then.
Yeah.
From analysis to action. We understand what happened, and we have a good idea why those seats vanished. So for someone sitting there right now with their preference list, maybe about to lock it in, what does this all mean? What's the immediate number one must-do strategic step?
The main action point, it's not just about glancing at the website. It's about approaching that finalized seat matrix on mcc.unic.in with real scrutiny, strategically. You absolutely must verify every single seat count for your preferred institutions and specialties before you hit submit on those choices. And if you see that an institution, or maybe a specific DNB program you liked, now shows 0 seats or just fewer seats than you expected, you have to immediately adjust. Either shift your priorities upwards towards safer options or look for alternative institutions that might now seem more reliable. Given that DNB volatility we talked about, aspirants who had ranked those 54 withdrawn seats highly, they really need to pivot their attention now, maybe to safer MDMS seats or perhaps other DNB options that are still confirmed.
Right, so this isn't just about passively reviewing data. It's active, tactical choice filling. And we need to be crystal clear about the timeline here because this window is closing really fast. When is that final deadline for submitting choices?
Yeah, time is definitely short. The registration and choice filling window closes on November 5th, 2025. That date is the absolute final deadline. You need to have your preferences submitted based on this updated confirmed data by then.
November 5th. Okay. That gives listeners just a few days, really, to react to this pretty significant shift. And when can they expect to see the results for round one?
So, after the choice filling closes on the 5th, the seat allotment result for round one is scheduled to be declared on November 8th, 2025. Which means, yes, your strategy needs to be locked in, executed, using the confirmed data that's now available on the MCC site by November 5th.
Okay, let's quickly summarize the tactical takeaways then. The AIQ pool revised down by 97 seats net. That number hides a key detail. 54 of those were the more volatile DNB seats, hinting at maybe some weakness in how reliably those specific programs report their capacity. Therefore, the crucial step for aspirants: check mcc.igus.in immediately, prioritize potentially safer options if your list was affected, and make sure those preferences are locked before the November 5th deadline.
Exactly. And, as we wrap up, let's circle back to that idea of the matrix being dynamic. The MCC, okay, they've done their job providing the final count, even if it's late. But for you, the learner, this constant adjustment right up to the last minute, it raises a bigger strategic question about the whole counseling process, doesn't it? If institutions are clearly, sometimes, failing to give accurate final data weeks ahead, how should future aspirants maybe factor this risk in? Like, should you almost automatically discount, say, 5 or 10% of the preliminary DNB seats when you first build your strategy, knowing that this kind of regulatory cleanup is probably going to happen right before allocation anyway?
That's a really powerful thought to chew on. It shifts the simple act of checking a website into, well, a longer-term critical look at how transparent and maybe how volatile parts of the medical education system can be. Trusting the final count is essential, obviously, but understanding why the final count ended up looking the way it does. That's the real deep dive. Thanks for walking us through this crucial source material today. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.